I would like to call the April 24th, 2024 City Council meeting, regular meeting to order. Everyone, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Carrie,
Present.
Chilson,
Present.
Hutchings. Present. Nelson,
Present.
Parker,
Present.
Wackler,
Present.
Cassidy. I'm sure he's on his way. Mr. Cassidy is walking in the door.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, I'm late.
You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda and consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda? Mr. Carey,
So moved.
may I have a second, please? Thank you, Ms. Hutchings. Are there any changes to the agenda or consent agenda? Mr. Chilson?
I apologize. Thank you. I just get my notes in front of me here. There is a resolution I'd like to pull. I would like to remove resolution 2024-013 from the consent agenda for review by council.
Are there any other changes to the consent?
Oh, actually, I apologize. You caught me off guard here. Yes, thank you. Scratch that. I would request that we remove resolution 2024-011, authorizing the city manager to enter into a sewer main extension and inspection agreement between the city of Soldotna and Whistle Hill LLC from the consent agenda.
Any other changes to the consent agenda? Seeing none, will the clerk please read the consent agenda?
April 10, 2024, council meeting minutes. Ordinance 2024-017, approving a donation to the Central Area Rural Transit System, Inc., and increasing estimated revenues and appropriations by $5,000 in the general fund for this purpose, sponsored by Vice Mayor Parker. Public hearing on May 8th. Ordinance 2024-018, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations by an amount not to exceed $938,700 in the utility System Capital Improvement Fund for an anticipated increase in the Alaska Clean Water Fund loan from the State of Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation for the biosolids dewatering replacement project, sponsored by the city manager. Public hearing on May 8th. Ordinance 2024-019, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations by $100,000 in the utility fund and $100,000 in the Utility System Improvement Capital Project Fund for the Whistle Hill Sewer Main Extension and Inspection Agreement, sponsored by the city manager. Public hearing on May 8th. Ordinance 2024-020, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations by $34,225 in the general fund, $13,495 in the utility fund, and $47,720 in the Street Improvements Capital Project Fund for the Diane Lane Cul-de-sac Water Main and Road Construction Agreement, sponsored by the city manager. Public hearing on May 8th, 2024. Resolution 2024-012, authorizing a sole source purchase in the amount of $69,500 from Operator XR LLC for a virtual reality firearms training simulator for police officer de-escalation and decision-making training, sponsored by the city manager. Resolution 2024-013, authorizing the city manager to enter into a water main and road construction agreement between the city of Soldotna and James Delker, Russell Moore, George Long, and Ray Merritt, sponsored by the city manager. That is your consent agenda.
Thank you. Are there any public comments on any of the items just read by the clerk? For those participating through Zoom, please raise your hand if you would like to comment. App users by pressing the raise your hand button, and phone participants by dialing *9 on your telephone. Is there anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on any item just read by the clerk? Just step forward here and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jim Delker. I live at 261 Riverwatch Drive. I'd like to speak towards Resolution 2024-013. So this regarding the Diane Lane cul-de-sac improvement. So my name is Jim Delker. My wife Debbie and I have lived on 261 Riverwatch Drive for over 20 years. At present time, we are building a new home on 268 Diane Lane. Starting last fall, Debbie and I, along with 3 other homeowners on Diane Lane cul-de-sac, have been working on plans to upgrade Diane Lane and provide city water service to the 3 property owners on the west side of the road. This project has been before the city council 3 times previously, dating back as far as 1999, again in 2005, and a 3rd time in 2007. each time a resolution was approved to upgrade the remaining gravel portion of Diane Lane cul-de-sac. In 2005, a 500-foot section of Diane Lane as well as a portion of Ridgewood Drive were completed via an SAD, wherein the city contributed 50% of the improvements, sharing equally with the landowners. For some reason, the 250-foot cul-de-sac portion of Diane Lane was removed from the project list both in 2005 and again in 2007. At this time, we as property owners have chosen to present the project as a development agreement instead of a special assessment district. The reasons for our choice are the significant cost savings for both the city and the residents. We are able to accept competitive bids from equally qualified contractors at 20 to 30% cost savings on the project. Additionally, we are providing a significant portion of the engineering work, as Russell Moore, one of our residents, is a licensed civil engineer in the state of Alaska. The development agreement also allows us to move forward more efficiently in addition to those cost savings. Given our home project is already underway and Mr. Moore is hoping to start his home project this summer, it would be prudent to install subsurface city services such as the water before making any improvements to the roadway. Based on the calculations from the city, the water main extension will pay for itself in service fees alone by these residents in just over 5 years. After this time, it will be a net gain for the city in regards to the income. If the city were to pay 50% of the project, it will take a bit over 10 years to recoup the same cost, but again, will still result in a net gain for the city in the long term. Additionally, the 2 new homes being constructed will add to the overall tax base for the city of Soldotna. The end result of this agreement is that the city will gain a new paved surface that addresses significant drainage issues, and it's less expensive to maintain. The residents will gain a completed road that has a history of being repeatedly promised and never completed. We have requested 50% cost share based on the history of similar projects in Diane Lane, Ridgewood, and the neighborhood. This development agreement comes with a significant benefit for the city. The cost share proposal will provide an improved neighborhood roadway that reduces flooding, promotes public safety, and is less costly to maintain. We've truly appreciated the collaborative efforts shown to us by the city employees thus far in this process, and we appreciate the council's support to help us see this project through to completion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Saying none. Thank you, Mr. Delco. Next. And please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Ray Merritt. I live on 290 Diane Lane, and I'd like to speak on the Diane Lane upgrades, please. So I'm a property owner at 290 Diane Lane on the Diane Lane cul-de-sac. I'm expressing my support for the proposed water and road upgrades to the Diane Lane cul-de-sac along with my neighbors and fellow property owners affected by the upgrades. Although our lot is not affected by the proposed water supply upgrades, we support the upgrade as we are aware of the poor water quality and challenges for our neighbors to have access to good water supply. My wife Shannon and I have resided on the cul-de-sac since 2005. Since then, we have seen multiple proposed upgrades come and go. I believe the current proposal is a viable option and actual improvement over previous proposals as it minimizes cost while meeting city standards. As the city maintenance department is well aware, this street has always been a subject of high maintenance due to the poor drainage. The proposed upgrades would address the poor drainage issues, allowing city maintenance crews to focus their time and resources to other areas of consideration. Approval of this project results in benefits to the property owners and the city. 2 of the property owners, Mr. Moore and Mr. Delker, have contributed a significant amount of their own time and energy to make this project a reality. Mr. Moore, an engineer, has donated his time and engineering expertise to this project. Mr. Delker has spent his time and energy soliciting bids, saving the city money and resources that would otherwise have been on the burden of the city. Based on the fact that both the city and the property owners benefit from the proposed upgrades and in consideration of Mr. Moore's and Mr. Delker's considerations, I would respectfully request that the city would consider funding more than 25% of the project. In summary, I stand by my neighbors in support of the cul-de-sac upgrades. We are all unified in the desire to see this project move forward and respectfully request that the city council votes to provide funds for a portion of the project, as has been proposed in the past and is being provided in other parts of the city. Thank you for your time.
Any questions from the council? Saying none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next. And please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir.
And you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is George Long. I've owned the property on Diane Lane since 1995. I don't remember exactly the same way these guys do, but I was there before they were. And I'm giving you this information from up here, so it could be a little bit off. But my recollection is that they paved the rest of Diane Lane about 1997 or 98. And it was a deal where they had already formed the district to do it. I begged Bone Break to let us do our little 200-foot of road. It seems to me like they could have done it. They had all of the equipment there. It was the time to do it, but we weren't in on it. So he told me, he said, you're going to have to get a petition up if you want to pave your road. And I did. These guys didn't have homes next to me. I had the only home there at the time. And it was approved. But it also just got lost. I called to check on it a year or two later, nobody even knew about it. So we did it again. I don't remember the exact day, but I started working on it around 2001 or two, and it took a while to get it all written out, what we planned for and wanted, and it was approved again. And I remember it was all written up and they sent it to engineering to get cost, and we never heard another word. So at the time they paved Diane Lane in 1997 or 8, it's my recollection that the city was paying 75%. And I do recall that the first application we put in, we were asking for 75%. Of course, nothing happened, so it doesn't matter. But that's how it's changed over the last 28 years. It's gone from a pretty high amount to a pretty small amount. We've done a lot of the work. Fortunately, we've done most of the engineering for you. This is the second time we've done the engineering, and it never came to fruition. But I'm hoping that this time it will work. I'm 79 years old. I volunteered for Vietnam. I served 6 years in the Air Force. I want to see this happen before I die. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the council? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else in the chamber wishing to speak on any item on the consent agenda? Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Henry Krull, 36156 Tremolo Circle here in Soldotna. And you'll have to excuse my ignorance, and I want to ask for some direction. I'm not sure if this is where the point of the meeting where I comment on Resolution 2024-011.
It'll come up.
Is that
for-
after it's introduced?
That will come up for a public hearing later.
Okay.
And then on the agenda.
Okay, I'll wait till then. Thank you.
There's one on Zoom. One on Zoom.
Okay. And the person on Zoom,
Oh, you don't want to hear
Oh.
from me right now?
go ahead.
Okay.
We'll do you.
I can sit back down.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Ross Baxter. I live at 34870 Schwam Road in Soldotna. Been a Realtor 20 years. I'm speaking on behalf of the Whistle Hill Sewer Line Extension. I've been involved with lots of,
Just for a moment.
yes,
That'll
sir.
come up for a public hearing a little bit later on the agenda.
Oh, so this isn't where I would,
No.
okay.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah. We'll still be listening.
Okay.
All right.
Thought I
Now,
could get out of here.
now we'll go to the person on Zoom, Mr. Russell Moore.
Hello, my name is Russell.
Mr. Moore, you'll have 3 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, great.
Can barely hear you, sir.
Oh, you can barely hear me? Okay. Is this better?
It's a little bit better, but need to speak up a little bit more.
Not great. Okay. My name is Russell Moore. I have the property at 293 Diane Lane, next door to George and across the street from Ray. I'm the engineer that has, donated my time and working successfully with the other neighbors to make this happen, as well as the city staff. They've been very good to work with. We've got our approval from DEC. We've got our plans approved from the city. We've got a contractor with a bid, and process started last fall, so we've been at it quite a while. I'd like to also see the city participate in a much greater financial capacity than they're currently suggesting for a couple of reasons. In support of George, for one, and the efforts that have happened in the past that have failed, started and failed. I feel like there's an obligation there to see this through. We have donated, like everyone else has said so eloquently, we have donated our time, both the engineering time, working with the city to make sure that it meets their standards, both the street improvement as well as the storm drain improvement. There's a big sump there that becomes an ice skating rink every spring, and the design will alleviate that. There's a French drain that the city put in that has caused some real saturation problems in the area between the road and the riverbank. And this project will short circuit that and actually tie into an existing city storm drain system, just like the water line in Marydale. So we're excited to make this happen for the community. I have relatives that live in the area that walk in this neighborhood, and one more street to walk in will be just all that much more joy for them. So I support my neighbors and consideration of the city that they participate up to the 50% level in this project, just to ensure that it happens, and it happens in the way that it should. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Any questions from the council? No. Thank you again, Mr. Moore. Anyone else in the chambers wishing to speak on any item that was listed under the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'm going to look at Zoom again and see, and I see no more hands raised there. Having no one else wishing to speak, the approval of the agenda and consent agenda is back before the council. Are there any council objections to approving the agenda and consent agenda? Seeing none, the agenda and consent agenda are approved by unanimous consent. Next item on the agenda is a presentation with prior notice. Soldotna Chamber of Commerce Visitor Center Quarterly Report. Maddie Olson, the Executive Director of the Chamber.
Hi, thank you for having me. Like I mentioned, my name is Maddie Olson. I'm Executive Director over at the Soldotna Chamber, and I will dive right in. And so the first quarter of 2024, we saw significant advancements that were made in enhancing our membership benefits and sponsorship opportunities, with a strategic focus on attracting new visitors and new residents to the Kenai Peninsula area. So I've given each council member our updated membership packet that includes all of our benefits that members that receive, as well as sponsorship opportunities for 2024. So if you would like to look through that or have any questions, please let me know. Let's see, notable events included the successful return of Frozen River Fest and the hosting of Soldotna's 34th annual St. Patrick's Day Parade. Additionally, we collaborated with the Kenai Chamber of Commerce and organized 8 chamber luncheons for the first quarter. Our Visitor Center Coordinator, Sarah Hondell, has diligently prepared for the upcoming busy summer season. 3 seasonal Visitor Center assistants will be joining us again, and we've hired 2 additional employees to accommodate our extended summer hours, one of which we are sharing with the Soldotna Museum. Visitor Center operations began on April 3rd, and then weekend hours will begin May 25th. On Memorial Day, we will start our extended hours, which will be 7 days a week, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m., all the way through Labor Day. So we closely monitor visitor center traffic May through September, so we will have stats starting this quarter. In early April, we obtained approval from the 2024 Levitt Amp Soldotna concert series lineup. And thanks to strong community support reflected in sponsorships and in-kind contributions, we were able to do that. We extend our sincere appreciation to the City of Soldotna and Parks and Rec for your invaluable partnership in facilitating these transformative community events that we hold. The ongoing improvements of the quality of life in Soldotna are remarkable, and the Soldotna Chamber is excited to see the start of the construction on the Field House project and to see the first steps towards the Riverfront redevelopment project. We continue to stay committed to fostering further positive changes and growth in our community. For our marketing update, we just recently attended the Matsu Outdoorsman Show and the Fairbanks Outdoors Show in April. We distributed over 1,000 visitor guides along with 2,000 rack cards through paid co-op advertising with our members. We had over 5,000 people interact directly with our booths over the two shows, and just under 2,000 participants entered to win our 3-night stay in Soldotna giveaway. So that was incredible. We about doubled numbers from last year's trade shows. In addition, we provided our Facebook page with a social media plug for any of our members that we saw at the trade shows. For visitor guides, we have delivered several to businesses in the area through March and April. I think we have 34 locations currently that we have our visitor guides. We've mailed 17 relocation packets, and we've invested $3,000 into advertising with Bell's Travel Guide, and I will have more updated stats in next quarter's report on that. Our social media is looking great. We continue to grow our website. Traffic is up 14%. And then our average engagement time is up 34% compared to 2023. So that is incredible. We've been doing a massive overhaul on the website, updating content and making sure both the Soldotna Chamber side and the Visit Soldotna side of the websites are current and as accessible as possible to our visitors. Moving on to events for the first quarter, we partnered with Alaska Department of Labor, the Kenai Job Center, and Kenai Chamber of Commerce to host a community scholarship fair that was held January 27th. And we saw great success. We had 14 vendors and about 250 attendees. And we gave a $500 scholarship to one lucky student just for attending the event. So a huge thank you to our staff, board members, volunteers, and vendors for making that event a success. We're really looking forward to bringing that back bigger and better in January 2025. We had great feedback from that event. On Sunday, March 17th, we held the 34th Annual St. Patrick's Day Parade. We worked with the city and CES to make sure that residents knew about the road closures for this short period of time. We had great success with that as well, over 20 parade participants, and I'd say about 700 attendees on the sidewalks enjoying the parade. So that was great. The weather really doesn't keep us down here. On to Frozen River Fest. Thanks to the help of many, Frozen River Fest was amazing this year. Weather conditions were ideal. Staff and volunteers worked tirelessly to make the experience seamless for the brewers and attendees. We exceeded last year's sales with seeing about 1,500 people at that event this year. Last year was around 1,000. Naptown Brewing won the People's Choice Award for the second year in a row, and that was, an incredible event. On to my favorites. In January, myself and our events manager went to the 2024 Levitt Foundation convening in Los Angeles. We learned about risk mitigation, fundraising, boosting lawn engagement, and a lot more. I had the opportunity to speak on a panel regarding cultural programming within our music series, and we are thrilled to have Kenaitze Indian Tribe return as a sponsor and to help facilitate most of this year's lawn activities. Our lineup, like I mentioned earlier, has been approved. Our poster is out, so if you would like to see that, it's all over social media. We're real excited to be diving into this. We'll kick off this year on June 5th with our annual Color Fun Run. We have Global and CPH returning as headline sponsors, and our additional headline sponsor this year is Marathon Petroleum, so thank you to them. We're hoping for the return of a lawn activity sponsor as well. Kenai River Brewing is sponsoring our beer garden again and our reusable cups. And we have 8 second-tier sponsors with plans to secure 5 additional sponsors, and they're all listed there. Our reach on the music series has been pretty incredible. We've seen over 8,000 impressions and engagements on our social media posts. So people are really excited to bring that back again this year. Down below, you can see the first quarter visitor center expenses, and I did a mistake was pointed out. It does say fourth quarter on the chart, but it's supposed to say first quarter. And all the numbers are accurate for first quarter.
Any questions from the council? Mr. Carey?
I want to comment on what you provide us. This is very nice. It
Oh.
is so easy to find information. Again, after years of looking at these each quarter, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
This is very well done.
Thank you so much. We worked hard it's been months and months in the making. So we're really excited to launch this. And I think just last month, we started releasing this to our members. So yeah, it's a great way to, have a great understanding of the benefits that we offer through membership.
Good job.
So thank you for that feedback. That means a lot.
Vice Mayor Parker?
Thank you, Mayor Whitney. Thank you too for the packet. I will re-gift it to you because I'm already a member, so I would just
Fantastic.
as soon you keep this. And then you can
Thank you.
recycle it. or
Perfect.
give it
Yes,
to
we can
somebody
pass
else.
that on.
So
Absolutely.
the Color Fun Run on June 5th, does that go from the Visitor Center down to Soldotna Creek Park? Is that
Yes,
the
we will
route
have
again
the
this year?
same route as last year. So it will start at the Kenai Wildlife Refuge Visitor Center. And run all the way down to Soldotna Creek Park, staying on the right side of the highway. So we'll be releasing details and a map and all of that shortly.
Any other comments from the council? Questions? Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Great presentation. Next up on the agenda is Alaskan Christian College update by Dr. Keith Hamilton, President.
Thanks. Good to be back for my annual spring update on your college here on the Central Kenai Peninsula. And I got a slide deck to go through with you. First one, again, sharing our mission to empower Alaska Natives through biblically based higher education and Christian formation to pursue excellence in character learning and service as followers of Christ. And Alaska Natives, as you know, we're heavily centric on especially rural Alaska Natives coming in from Village Alaska Indigenous people groups. Next slide. Back a little bit of history, old days, some of you guys been around, remember the Ballard family, they owned the property there off of East Poppy, and we bought it actually from CPCS, those 10.5 acres, had a big 8,400 square foot house on it that they lived in, there's 2 people, and it had an indoor swimming pool, and we still have the pool, but it's covered by a library. So not using it much, and we opened our doors to our first class on September 16th, just 5 days after 9/11, difficult time to open up a new college. Next slide. We did have 22 students that first year from 4 different states, 7 ethnic groups, 80% of them Alaska Native background, and 16 of us were self-supporting faculty and staff. At the time, we were just a 1-year, 9-month, non-accredited Bible college for Alaska Native young people. But things have changed. Next slide. Now we have 29.5 acres up from that 10.5 with 27 different building projects we've done over the years, built mainly by our volunteer labor that comes up each summer from the lower 48. And good news, our entire campus now is debt-free. Everything you see here is paid for. We've added 2 36-bed dormitories, 3 cabins, 4 apartment buildings, a New Hope Counseling Center, Peninsula Conference Center, a small chapel, 6 classroom building, shop, 8-car garage, yurt, of course, for Alaska, we have to have a yurt. The athletic center, I'll show you a little bit later, and a wellness center that's coming around the corner as well. And we are excited that here in 2025, next year, the second largest multi-purpose facility is also coming to the Kenai, and that'll be our multi-purpose building I'll show you in a moment as well. We do have a state-of-the-art classroom buildings. We have a science laboratory, computer lab, and 4 classrooms. And these different classrooms help us effectively teach all the students what it takes to get an associate in arts degree. Next. Peninsula Conference Center, many of you have been inside of our cafeteria / dining hall / conference center. Again, this is rentable and usable. It gets used a lot in the summer, of course, but we're excited that this is now fully been built and paid for, and volunteers did a great job on it for us. One of my favorite pictures is all those dots, and this is an old slide, but about 102 villages of the 254 villages, towns, and cities in Alaska with a zip code have come to ACC in our 23 short years. Next. We have 53 full-time, part-time volunteer interns and adjunct faculty currently. And our operational budget started out that first year from $500,000 to $3.3 million, going back heavily investing in our community. 850 students have attended ACC since we opened those doors after 9/11. Again, 102 out of 123 villages and cities across Alaska alone, lower 48ers as well. But in 2012, big deal for us. We earned accredited status with the Department of Education through the Association for Biblical Higher Education, and also the Alaska Commission of Post-Secondary Education, which authorizes different schools in our state to operate. So we're legit. That's what I'm trying to say. We've got all the right stuff to say that we're a fully functioning college. Next. Mission statement I shared with you. Our vision statement also is to be the premier college of choice for Alaska Native students so that our graduates follow and serve Christ within the church and larger society. And premier, we really hope that students, I'm graduated from high school, I live out in Tuntun-Tuliak, maybe I'll come to ACC. We offer 4 associate and arts degrees, behavioral health, which is our second largest program, Christian ministry, general studies, our largest program, and paraprofessional education. And then this fall, we're starting to offer our first 2, maybe 3 vocational tech classes as we begin to shift towards some more tech work with our students. Life-changing education we also offer to prepare Alaska Native students towards that 4-year college degree, entering the workforce or possibly returning to rural Alaska. You have to think that coming from rural Alaska, we're in a village of 200 to 400 people, subsistence living, to the 4-year university is a huge leap. And we're that bridge or that gap to get them into a college scenario, to get them the rigor of college, and get them an A degree to continue on to their 4-year degrees. We offer a residential community. Highest enrollment was 104 just before COVID, and COVID definitely took a chunk out of us. We also offer a personalized approach to education with intensive academic support available for academically underprepared students. Our village students are underprepared academically, and we hit that head on. Some students take a whole year just doing developmental courses before they can enter the college program. We are not a 4-year college, as I mentioned, but an associate arts degree granting institution, kind of like a community college, yes. We're not an online college, not a place where anybody can teach. Our classes are taught by masters only and doctoral degreed professors. We're not just for Alaska Natives, although we push that really hard. We invite everybody who wishes to join us in this unique college experience. And the biggest thing out there, we are not a cult at the end of Royal Place off of East Poppy Lane, just in case you were wondering. Next. Peninsula Conference Center I want to share with you. This is, again, one of our rentable spaces that's used a lot, especially during the summer season with cabins and apartments and our dormitories to rent. Go ahead. We offer accommodations May to September, full service cabins, dormitories, apartment style. 152 beds is our maximum right now on campus. Our conference center will seat 150 in dining and 200 in conference room. And then we offer catering as well as a part of our food service there. Now, if you took KPC and all the rooms that they have over there that are available left and what we have, we actually could host a very large conference on the Central Kenai Peninsula if somebody wanted to rent out all those beds and also the dining that we offer on our side of the campus. New Hope Counseling Center is a subsidiary of Alaska Christian College. We offer free professional licensed services to all of our students of ACC, and we do reduced rates for our alumni. But last year, for instance, 3,300 client hours walked through their door. We opened to the community in 2006 and offer fee-for-service counseling, professional licensed LPOs for the state of Alaska. We have 6 counselors on staff. And we offer all kinds of things like the veterans insurance, private insurance, and then also for your city employees, we offer the EAP program, and some of your city employees do participate in that. Big commitment to you. Our doors are open for the community. There are no walls around Alaska Christian College, and we want to serve our greater Soldotna Kenai community through our facilities and our staff and our students to assist bringing a better life to all who live here. And I say students because our students require to do 10 hours each of service practicum in the community. And you'll see our vans parked in front of the Salvation Army or in front of the food bank or in front of Love Inc. because our students are serving in our community. We accomplished a huge capital campaign. We had a goal of $5 million to build what you see around the circle there is our new athletic center complex. It's important to look at that just as you'll see coming through Community College Road, you hit the college, Community College. If you turn left, you come down to our campus. You go straight now on Poppy Ridge Road, you'll turn into the gymnasium from that road. That'll be the public entrance. And then from the college side, that road will be a walking path up to the front of the facility. So this has really added a lot to our campus. These are all of our 27 buildings. Go ahead. February 23, we put this amazing building up, and 2 days later, that first foot of snow hit last year and just about got us. But luckily, we got it on in time. Next slide. And our athletic center is to be opened August of this year. It's available for rental for workout and cardio use. For basketball, we have 2 courts. We actually have 3 courts, but we have a middle section. We could drop down a big curtain and have 2 different teams going on at the same time. Volleyball, pickleball, 6 courts, I understand. And we're available for large community events. Now, the part that we really got excited about early on was when the city vote did not do the field house first time around. I know a big desire was for people to have a running track instead of doing the Home Depot run or the Fred Meyer run. And so we have added that to our project, and we're hoping that people want to use that. It'll be a beautiful 2-lane running track around our gym. It looks like in a horrible 7th grade drawing here with all these lines going everywhere, but in order to put all those together, all those activities, we have to have all these lines, but that's what the court will look like with a running track around it. Next. I took a picture this morning. This is the maple floor for the gym floor. They've been working on it, sanding it all week. All of our basketball hoops are in, and next 2 weeks that rubber track will go around. This will be the largest indoor athletic center that we're aware of on the Kenai Peninsula because of the additional space. But I heard you guys might be building something. Is that right? Maybe something else is coming around the corner. Maybe a little bit bigger. Okay, go ahead. Amy Simon from Scammon Bay got the first shot. This is just with a cement floor. First hoop went up, and Amy took the first shot and missed it. She missed it. We were so sad. Our first shot hit the rim, though. Go ahead. And this is the last project that we're working on to fill out our entire multi-purpose. All of our capital projects, a multi-purpose room. This is about a 4,000 square foot room that next to the Soldotna Sports Center. This will be the largest indoor eating room that will be available also for rent. It's a multi-purpose room first and then a chapel second for us. So last picture, I think. There it is. That's why we do what we do. These students who graduate, this is a couple of years ago, students going back to their villages with a degree that they can use to get a job and employment in Village, Alaska, and other places around our state and a few in the lower 48. That's my presentation, Mayor, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have about your college here on the Kenai Peninsula.
Any questions from the council? Vice Mayor Parker.
Well, just real quick, so that depiction of the indoor gymnasium and the track, will the track have those 90-degree turns?
Yeah, they will have a pretty sharp turn around the corner there. It's not as sharp as it looks, but it's definitely not a nice oval round.
Okay.
That cost a lot more money to make it that big. So
I believe you.
great question.
Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. The second to the last slide, you said that was next to the sports center?
Yeah, so actually the front of it. So when you on the campus side parking lot and you look at the new athletic center, that multipurpose will be facing right at you. That's the first thing you'll see actually is the multipurpose with the gym behind it.
Oh, your sports center. I'm thinking
My sports center.
our sports center.
Any other questions from the council?
Please
Ms.
ask.
Wackler.
Yeah.
You spoke, well, we saw that one slide with 9 graduates showing. Was
Yes.
that from last year?
That was a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I'm imagining. Yeah.
How many students do you have that attend on average for the last couple of years?
Yeah, so we'd probably be in the 65 to 70 range the last couple of years. Yeah, our goal is 75 is kind of the break even number somewhat for what we're able to offer there. Yeah.
And your graduating classes are usually about how many?
10 to 12. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mr. Carey.
Dr. Hamilton, I just want to thank you. Your leadership is what's made this happen. Again, you're step by step. And again, many of us here have watched and participated to a small extent, but you and your staff have done an outstanding job. And again, you're one of those major assets to our city. Thank you.
Anyone else? I do have one question. You had mentioned starting up vocational training.
Yes.
What type of vocational training?
Yeah, so we're not going to duplicate what's already happening in town. We've been looking at three main areas. One is in the food service culinary arts area, which I know Avtech does on the other side of the peninsula, but not over here. We're looking at small engine repair. Think about our students going back to the villages to do snow machines and four-wheelers. And then the third is heavy machinery, driving, operating. And we have some local businesses in town that will help us to do that. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
our start. We're playing it slow.
Yeah. When do you plan on actually starting that?
3 classes this fall, we're hoping, and that'll be our pilot. And then the following fall will be a hopefully sincere leap into that CTE foray.
Good. Glad
Yeah.
to see that happening.
Yeah, we are too.
Anything else? Vice Mayor Parker?
Sorry, a follow-up. With the associate degrees that your students have received,
Mhm.
you were having conversations with the university about potentially being able to transfer. Is that discussion still going on?
Well, thank you. Yeah, you and I sat on the board together
Yeah.
and understood that was an issue. Yes, thankfully, we have a complete agreement and articulation agreement with the University of Alaska system, all 3 schools. And we're able to take an AA degree student and transfer 100% of their credit less their Bible courses, which is, I think, 17 of the 60. So all of that 43 has moved over, and we've had students already try it, and it has worked. So we're thrilled. It
Okay.
took 19 years to happen.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for your help on it too.
Absolutely.
Anything else? Nope. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for
Thank you, Mayor.
everything you do for the
Thank
community.
you, everybody, for support.
Yep. Next item on the agenda is number 5. Public comments and presentations, items other than those appearing on the agenda, 3 minutes per speaker, 20 minutes aggregate. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? For those participating through Zoom, please raise your hand if you would like to comment. App users by pressing the raise your hand button, and phone participants by dialing *9 on your telephone. Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? And please step forward and state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, Adam Bertoldo, 53585 Foley Drive, Kenai. I'm here to talk about the pornographic children's books in the city library. It's a shame that this is a topic that we even need to discuss. Children cannot buy pornography in stores, but they can go and view it in the public library. Public funds should not be used for the grooming of children. It would be wrong to have pornography section for the adults, but it's appalling that pornographic children's books are being provided. All these books should be removed immediately. I want the resignation of those responsible for these books being in the public library. If this is what they want to push, they cannot be trusted.
Any questions or comments from the council? I do have one quick comment. There's a procedure to follow on that, and I would suggest you contact the city manager or the city librarian, and they can give you the forms and everything else to fill out. Question. Next, please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. David Strong, 48335 Merwood Avenue. I do understand there is a process, like you just mentioned. I think it's somewhat ludicrous that Ms. Nash has the unilateral authority to decide what goes into the library, and then there's a severe bureaucratic process to address the pornographic material that is in the library. I brought a book, and I'll just read a few things from it for the city council. Here's a section called Anal Toys. Anal toys come in 3 main flavors: plugs, dildos, and beads. The number one thing you need to know, that should tell you right there that this should not be in the library. The number one thing you need to know about toys in your butt is they need to have a flared base. Say it with me now, flared base. There's, oh, and if anybody would like to see. There's a section on strap-ons. If any of your children are interested, they can certainly go and pull this off the shelf without any of you knowing. In case they're interested on how to perform oral sex with one another. And the Attorney General's guidance put out does not limit pornographic material to actual photographs. It actually says depictions. I believe this would classify as a depiction. Let's see here. I won't show you anymore. I'll just say that I have spoken with the librarian. I have shown her these images and she refuses to comment whether or not they are pornographic. I asked her about limiting access to these, maybe putting them in an area of the library where somebody might have to show proof of age to go and look at them or go with their parent to look at them. Because there are a lot of areas where parents sit down and read, then children just go pull books off the shelf. She stated that's a violation of the First Amendment. A quick search of that is it is not. There are many libraries that do it. It's a violation of the ALA, American Library Association's interpretation of the First Amendment, not an actual interpretation by the Supreme Court. My time is up, so if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Any questions or comments from the council? I do have one quick question. Did you check that book out from the library?
I did. I have, this is just one of them. I had many of them, but I knew I was limited to 3 minutes.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on any item not on the agenda? And please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Ethan Van Bavel, 338 Banner Lane. I'm one of the many area residents concerned with the content and merit of several books in our public library collection. I'll speak to just one in particular this evening titled Let's Talk About It, labeled a young adult book. Bear in mind that the American Library Association defines young adult as minors from the age of 12 up to 18, and that our own librarian, when asked, stated that she personally defines young adult as 13 and up. Two girls walk out of class. They start talking about their sexual exploits. Ooh, I know, masturbate in front of him. What? Well, wait, you've never masturbated? Geez, forget about fooling around with someone else. We've got to have a chat about getting in touch with your sexual self. The book then goes on to detail how one goes about masturbating with illustrations. Not to leave out the boys either. The book goes on to encourage kids to also don't forget everyone's got a butt. After the train has left the station, so to speak, and you've had a chance to wash up or douche back there, you can have an assload of fun with a healthy heaping of lube. Apply broad pressure to the outside of the entrance. Circle your butthole with your finger, pausing any time a spot feels extra good. Dip just the tip of your finger inside. Let your anus pull it in when it's ready instead of forcing it. And here's the depiction of that, the illustration on how to do that. This is a young adult book, by the way. In the next chapter, kids are encouraged to take and send nude photos of themselves with their phones and to explore the vast selection of porn on the internet. Porn is described as a fun, sugary treat, and the actors in industry are praised as objectively good for society. There's one illustration. Should be a porn star. Yet porn is nearly synonymous with sex trafficking and exploitation. Consider how every download, click, and view not only reinforces this industry's influence and power on our society, but also serves to legitimize the exploitation of trafficked individuals who suffer at the hands of their exploiters. Consider the story of a girl who was cast for fitness video but was raped for hours on tape instead. Her violation, her experience of being tricked and forced into sex on camera was broadcast for the world to see on mainstream porn sites like Pornhub. Here's one quote from her. I was really scared. I didn't know if they were going to kill me. Watching the video now, I can see it in my eyes. The quivering of my lips and my voice. I know exactly how I was feeling in that moment, but to anyone else who sees it, they see what they want and they think I was complicit. Pornography fuels the global sex trade by driving demand into the mainstream of our society. Porn is often the recorded evidence of sex trafficking, and it directly fuels the demand for exploitation. Why is our public library encouraging anyone, let alone minors, to support the porn industry, to be commercial consumers of sex and thereby support the exploitation of millions of vulnerable people? Why do you, the authority figures of this city, think this is good? Is this loving one's neighbor? Is this treating others as we would like to ourselves to be treated? Would you want to be exploited in this way? Would you want our public library encouraging kids to watch the video of your rape?
Thank you for your comments. Any questions from the council? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll take a look at Zoom, and I see no hands raised there. Moving on to the next agenda item, and that will be Assembly and Legislative reports. Are there any representatives from the borough or the state in attendance who would like to speak? And I see none here in the chamber. And I see none on Zoom. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Item 7, public hearings. Testimony limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Ordinance 2024-016, amending Soldotna Municipal Code, Title 8, Chapter 8.06, Disposable Plastic Shopping Bags, introduced by Councilmember Chilson and Vice Mayor Parker. May I have a motion to enact?
I would move to adopt ordinance 2024-016.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Parker. Report from Councilmember Chilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll start with a little bit of history on this one. So in 2018, our council adopted ordinance 2018-013, and this was amending Soldotna Municipal Code to establish Title 8, Chapter 806, commonly referenced as our city's bag ban. This new code, when established in 2018, did a number of things. First and foremost, it sought to reduce plastic waste in the community by preventing the distribution of single-use plastic bags, with some exceptions, and instead encourage the use of recyclable or reusable bags. I would say that this code, following its adoption, has done a really good job of making a difference in our community and reducing plastic use. I think we've seen a good number of our vendors transition to defaulting to distributing paper bags. One important aspect of that code, though, introduced in 2018, is the way that it defined reusable bags. And the really important thing there is that it defined them using a minimum thickness of 2.25 mils. Not more, not less. And what this new ordinance would accomplish is really taking a closer look at the code that we previously established, looking at ways to improve it, and really starting with, again, that definition of reusable bags. I think that is one aspect of the original code that we've kind of fallen short with, and I think it had good intentions, but the reality is that, unfortunately, when those thicker plastic bags were distributed in the community with the intent of being reusable, the unfortunate outcome was that people were still continuing to use them in a disposable manner, which the end result being that rather than less plastic ending up out in the landfill, we actually ended up with more, not less. So again, what this new code would do, if adopted, would be 3 things. So it would redefine what constitutes a reusable bag to remove any reference to minimum thickness, and instead just use a few basic criteria that defines the kind of bags that most of us would commonly think of when we see, reusable bags being being used out in the grocery store. And really the way we define that basic criteria would be designed and produced to withstand repeated use over time, and is made from material that is machine washable or can be cleaned and disinfected regularly. So again, actual reusable bags, not just plastic bags that are slightly thicker and just barely meet that technical requirement for being reusable, even though reuse might just be 2 or 3 times before it falls apart. The other things that this code would do is restructure the list of exemptions so that they're easier to read. In the previous code, the exemptions were incorporated right into the definition of disposable bag, which made the language kind of cumbersome, and it was kind of difficult to kind of discern what was truly an exemption and what wasn't. And then lastly, it would clean up some of the exemption language that could possibly be misinterpreted or potentially had loopholes that could have been abused. That's all that I have on this. Actually, one more note. I would add that if adopted, this ordinance would not come into effect, until January 1st. And the goal of delaying its adoption is really to give vendors enough time to where they can burn through back stock and coordinate any logistics that they have to sort through on sourcing alternative bags that would be compliant with this new code. So really easing this into effect and giving a lot of leeway to vendors to work it in. So that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor Parker, do you have anything to add to that?
No, thank you. Not at this time.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? For those participating through Zoom, please raise your hand if you would like to comment. App users by pressing the raise your hand button, and phone participants by dialing *9 on your telephone. Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on ordinance 2024-016? And please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Pamela Hayes, and I'm a resident of 235 Stacy Drive, Soldotna. I'm a member of the Kenai Change Sisterhood for Sustainable Futures. It's a group of 13 local women working in healthcare, education, government, and business. And we focus on environmental protections in response to climate changes. And Ordinance 2024-16 is in keeping with our intentions. Personally, I'm a healthcare provider here in Soldotna, and I'm strongly in support of this plastic bag ban. I also have a message from Kelsey Shields, who's a member of our group too, and she's the owner of Lucy's Market, and I'll just read that message from her. She said, as a community member and business owner, I was thrilled when I first heard of the plastic bag ban and soon disappointed as even more robust plastic bags began popping up in stores. It felt like the problem was worse instead of better. I fully support repealing plastic grocery bags in Soldotna. I understand that some individuals find it inconvenient to remember to bring their reusable grocery bags into the store. But that's all it is, an inconvenience, and a very small one at that. The health of our planet, our local wetlands, and wild places is certainly worth such an inconvenience. This is not a wildly progressive or innovative new concept. It's a small measure taken by many communities across the globe, and I'm proud to have Soldotna among them. I can only hope that small actions like using a reusable grocery bag will help put us all in the mindset of taking further positive daily actions to protect this planet we are stewards of.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions from the council?
Thank you for your comments.
Saying none, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anyone else here in the chamber is wishing to speak on ordinance 2024-016? Seeing none, I'll take a look at Zoom, and I see one hand raised. Mr. Bettiger, I guess it is.
Bettiger.
Name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Ben Bettiger. I'm a resident of 36125 Irons Avenue, just outside the city limits, but I do shop in Soldotna. And in addition, I'm an energy policy analyst for Cook Inlet Keeper, and I feel pretty confident speaking for Cook Inlet Keeper's membership in Soldotna, saying that we're in support of the ordinance. It's a common sense measure to achieve the goals of the original 2018 plastic bag ordinance. And to anyone who has seen these thicker reusable plastic shopping bags continue to litter the brush near Saltesh or Slycock trails or the refuge trails, or washed up on our riverbanks, it should be pretty clear that the minimum thickness definition is lacking and leaves open a significant loophole. We are fully in support of the ordinance, and thank you for considering it.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, thank you again for your comments. I'll take a look at Zoom again, and I see no further hands raised. One more chance to the people here. Anybody wishing to speak on ordinance 2024-016? Seeing none, having no one else wishing to speak, the item is back before the council. Mr. Chilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to expand on one point, and that being the exceptions. I kind of touched on this briefly on my report, but I just wanted to clarify some of what those exceptions are. And again, the intent with this is not to eliminate the use of disposable plastic bags. It's to make the way I'd phrase this is a reasonable reduction, just where it makes sense. And it's still allowing the use where there is a genuine need. And some of those exceptions would include used by customers inside stores to contain a product that does not have other packaging, such as fruits, nuts, vegetables, meat, candy, baked goods, prepared foods, etc. Also to contain dampness or leaks from items like frozen foods and meat, fish, flowers. pharmaceuticals, also used to contain newspapers, laundry, dry cleaning, or sold to the consumer or sold for consumer use off the vendor's premises, such as collection of disposable garbage, pet waste, yard waste. So there are exceptions in place for where it makes sense. And I just wanted to point that out.
Any further comments? Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor Whitney. I want to go back to when we introduced this ordinance in 2018, and it was because of outreach from some of the younger members of the Knights tribe that they asked us to look at introducing an ordinance, and working with them, we were able to come up with this ordinance. And like all pieces of legislation, everything needs refinement over time. Times change, we get better at what we do or how we do it. And so I do want to again recognize the young people from the Knights that brought this forward. And we have seen a change in our community, and most of the businesses have been accepting, and people that want to find a way around the laws or the codes and the ordinances that we have will always continue to do it. But I find most people are accepting and abide by the law. Recent studies have shown that there is still a significant amount of plastic that's being absorbed by particularly the wildlife in our waters. So anything we can do to try to improve the health of our ecosystem is beneficial. Thank you.
Anything further? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote.
Hutchings? Yes. Chilson?
Yes.
Wackler?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Cassidy?
Yeah.
You have 6 yes votes.
Ordinance 2024-016 passes on a 6-0 vote. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is new business, and we will move to resolution 2024-011, authorizing the city manager to enter into a sewer main extension and inspection agreement between the city of Soldotna and Whistle Hill LLC, introduced by the city manager. May I have a motion to adopt? Mr. Carey. Mr. Carey.
I move the adoption of resolution 2024-011.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Chilson. Report from the administration.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This a development agreement comes back to you at your request at a previous meeting and contains the items that we spoke of at that previous meeting regarding the funding. And it is our standard development agreement. And I would ask if there are any particular questions about the development agreement. I'll ask Kyle and John to address those, but this comes back to you at your request.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item, which is resolution 2024-011? This is your time. And please state your name and address for the record.
I am still Henry Kroll, 36156 Tremolo Circle here in Soldotna. Mayor Whitney and council members, thank you again for the opportunity to speak. I've been up before the council, I don't know how many times now, half dozen or so. My wife as well. We do support a resolution to assist with funding for this very needed sewer line extension. Unfortunately, at the level that's proposed, $100,000, which is where we were 3 years ago, it's not going to happen. We're not going to be able to do it. This is an $800,000 project, and so $100,000 from the city means I come up with $700,000. I don't have that, so that'd be a deal breaker. We are limping along right now. We are at risk of a catastrophic failure of our septic system, and there is no reasonable or viable alternative. We have already replaced the septic system once due to a failure that occurred before the restaurant, which is the main user of water up there, before it even opened. In fact, it was a basement. The basement flooded in the middle of summer because the septic system was overwhelmed. We replaced it at a significant cost. There is no adequate land or soil that will allow us to do another septic system. It simply isn't possible. We've dug, I think, 9 or 12 test holes, not only on Whistle Hill property, but on adjacent properties, and there is no viable soil. This is really the only option for us, but it's not going to happen if we have to come up with $700,000. I think that'd be a big ask for a big company like Walmart or Walgreens or Fred Meyer's to come up with that, to get a sewer line, a sewer main, not even a sewer line. This is a sewer main. This is an 8-inch pipe. We generate about 1.5 inches of waste. That's what was proposed when we thought about doing a direct bore down to the map shop. We need 1.5 inches. So we're putting in an 8-inch pipe because the city needs a sewer main. There's been some talk about this project benefiting only one family. And I think that's inaccurate, and it's untrue, and it's misleading as well. We're on the Sterling Highway, number one. That's the busiest road in this area. Number two, we're within city limits. So this is going to benefit anybody that wants to put in a home anywhere off of that side of the highway. Any business that wants to do their own business development on the Sterling Highway corridor within city limits. This is of benefit to all those people. This is also a benefit to the 50 employees that we have at Whistle Hill. If we have a catastrophic failure of our septic system, we close our business. And I don't know how we're going to open because we can't just do a new septic system. That's 50 families that are out of work. That's a big deal. We're not the biggest employer by any stretch of the imagination, but 50 is a lot. We need this project. We need a greater level of funding. That's what's being proposed. I ask that the city council consider agreeing to what they agreed to previously, which was 62.5% of the project costs, which equated to $508,000 at the time. That's a big ask. And I know that there's going to be some discussion and we may not get it. Getting half, I think, would be very helpful and may make this project go through. But anything less than that, and I don't think it's going to happen. So I ask for your consideration and support.
Thank you for your comments. Any questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on resolution 2024-011?
Yeah, thank God.
And please state your
Hi.
name
Yeah.
for the address, or name and address for the record. again.
Yes, thank you. I'm Ross Baxter. I live at 34870 Schwam Road in Soldotna. I'm a local realtor. I'm in support of the city council funding the sewer line extension to Whistle Hill, and frankly beyond. My purpose for coming here tonight isn't so much about Whistle Hill. I, as a realtor for 20 years, have been fortunate to work with some people, not only in this room, but a lot of transformative development in our town. It's really exciting to see what's occurred, a lot of responsible development. Currently, right across from Birch Ridge Golf Course, I've got a private landowner that it's not currently listed, but it's in conversation with a investment company that's done a great job. If you drive through Cooper Landing, you see Grizzly Ridge. That's a Texas investment firm. They've made a offer on almost 18 acres across from Birch Ridge, but they're hesitant because there's no sewer, there's no water. And they are one of many clients that when you talk about a benefit to development in a city, you want to provide infrastructure and growth to this area. I love the word transformative and quality of life that was used earlier. And frankly, that's why I'm sitting here, is that I've really witnessed a lot of positive growth. I'd like to see more of it. My understanding is that sewer line wouldn't just be, for Whistle Hill. It's large enough to have an extension, and if I read correctly, 4 additional connections of some sort. I think that's really positive, Also, as a Realtor, I have the benefit of talking to people relocating here and coming here. Hospitality is a big part of what we do. Whistle Hill is a big draw. The Soldotna sign is right in front of them. And I have a little insight. I'm not a soils expert, but, my knowledge of the soils up there is that they're awful. And that if a system needed to be replaced, it would be cost prohibitive for most businesses. And unlike other businesses, I would say this one's adding value to our town. And I'd like to add value further, even past Whistle Hill. So anyway, I see my time's about up. I'm available for any questions, and there's certainly a lot more I could say.
Any questions from the council?
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak?
Evening, folks. Thank you for the opportunity. Didn't really prepare any remarks, so I'm going to wing it a little bit. My name is Jeff Bellamini. I reside at 534 North Circle in Soldotna. Have lived there for about 20 years. I also own a small insurance agency in Kenai. Been operating that for about 23 years. I first met Mary Kroll when she came to me with plans to build Whistle Hill, starting out with Brew at 602 initially. And I've been involved with the Kroll family ever since. I would like to, my plan is to sit here and just reinforce what Henry said about funding of this particular project. Like he said, they had a catastrophic loss already, and the grounds are certainly, they can't put another septic system in. And the family is not in a position to fund this thing at the level of funding the city has proposed. So I'm just here to make mention that they've made a wonderful contribution to this community. It's a wonderful facility, complex. As Henry mentioned, they employ a lot of folks. And they've made a huge investment. And of course, if we do have a catastrophic failure, they probably can't operate anymore. So, I know that we were originally talking about $585,000. Henry mentioned that something on the order of half of that might be sufficient to make it work. So I simply ask that you folks go back to the drawing board and reconsider the amount that you are going to fund for this particular project. This is a worthy endeavor. These are great folks who have made a huge investment in this community, have lived here for a long, long time, and it's worth your time and consideration. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Any questions from the council? Seeing none, thank you for your comments. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on resolution 2024-011? And please state your name and address for the record. And you'll have 3
Mr.
minutes.
Mayor, Council, my name is Nancy Casey, 34360 Sienna Circle, just outside Soldotna. Full disclosure, I was the landscape architect that worked with Whistle Hill from the beginning, so I am very familiar with the project and the history of the development there. I am also here to support your consideration of additional funding for this expansion. I would, it's a tough decision. I get that. You have a lot to consider. Does it pencil out? Are you setting a precedent? How does this meet the goals and long-term visions of this town? And those are all a big deal. As an elected body, you have the authority to adjudicate situations like this on a case-by-case basis, to look at the situation and judge. That's what you're appointed and voted in to do. So as far as setting a slippery slope precedent, I think that it really dismisses your ability to make decisions, and it insults the professionalism of staff and your ability as a body that's elected to do what you see fit for the town. So this is a really unique situation. It wasn't a speculative ask. This is an established business that found themselves in a tough situation. It was something that occurred long, after they had been established. And they're just, trying to stay afloat and adjust and pivot to a situation that didn't work out as planned. Penciling out, of course, I understand that's your, fiscal responsibility to be sure that the numbers match. And, I commend you for that. But I'd also encourage you to think about what else that matters when you think about decisions like this and the growth that people have talked about for Soldotna and the positive things that have happened here. They weren't all about, does it pencil? They weren't all about setting precedents. They were about what kind of community we envision. Do we want a community with multiple generations of people that has stayed here or left and went to college and come back to work here and be with their grandparents and their grandkids? This kind of locally owned, not a multinational business that's unique, comes from a passion. This is the kind of thing that makes Soldotna a place where doctors and their families want to come to work in our hospital, a place where people want to visit because it's different. It's the kind of place I want to live in. And this is a tough decision, but I think in this case, it's very worthy and it's very fair. So I encourage you to dig deeper and see what you can do to help fund this one a little more. Any questions?
Thank you for your comments. Any questions from the council? Seeing none, thank you again. Anyone else in the chambers wishing to speak on the resolution 2024-011? Seeing none, I'm going to go to Zoom, and the first hand I see raised is Braden Garrett. Mr. Garrett, please state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Braden Garrett. I live at 47669 Hazy Lane in Soldotna. I'd like to apologize for not being able to be there in person. However, I am on Zoom this evening to advocate for an increase in funding for the development agreement between Whistle Hill and the city of Soldotna. This increase in funding it's crucial to the success of the future projects, and it holds immense potential for Whistle Hill. But it also holds immense potential for expansion onto Turnbuckle Terrace and the entire community of Soldotna heading towards city limits out towards Sterling. What has been discussed and been debated in previous council meetings is the smallest drop in the ever expansive pond that you all have heard about. Whistle Hill and the businesses currently operating there are at the heart of this endeavor. And by providing them with the necessary resources, you will ensure the continued growth of Whistle Hill. However, the significance of this project extends far beyond Whistle Hill. Once the development is able to connect to the sewer system, it opens doors to future development opportunities that will benefit the entire city of Soldotna. One of the key beneficiaries of this project then becomes Turnbuckle Terrace. Currently, I believe the area is home to over 10 developed and occupied parcels currently. And there is tremendous untapped potential back there with many more undeveloped prime lands waiting to be utilized. These lands share very similar types of soil as Whistle Hill, which makes them equally unsuitable for development. However, by granting the increased funding, you can provide Turnbuckle Terrace with a closer access to sewer, which will unlock the full potential and pave the way for economic growth in the city of Soldotna. Investing in this development agreement is not just about dollars and cents. It's about investing in the community's future. By supporting this project, you are creating opportunities for job creation. You're going to attract new businesses and fostering a vibrant local economy. Moreover, by supporting the increase, you're enhancing the quality of life for our residents and by promoting sustainable growth and development. It's imperative and important to recognize that the increase in funding is a strategic investment in the current community members and businesses of Soldotna. It will yield significant returns in the form of increased tax and utility revenue, improved infrastructure, and a stronger local economy. The benefits you reap today will have a lasting impact on future generations of Soldotna residents. I really urge you to approve the increase in funding for the development agreement. By doing so, you're not only supporting Whistle Hill and the businesses operating there, but you're also unlocking the potential for Turnbuckle Terrace, the expansion towards Sterling, and setting the stage for future growth. Why not seize the opportunity now instead of waiting? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Any questions from the council? Seeing none, thank you again. Next, on Zoom, hand raised is Mary Kroll. Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Seem to be getting a bit of an echo.
Yes, it was. Is it better? Oh dear. Okay, good to go. Mary Kroll, 36156 Tremolo Circle, Soldotna. I'd like to thank you for your time and consideration again this evening. I apologize I cannot attend tonight in person. As you are aware, we have been in collaboration with the city to resolve the wastewater challenges on Whistle Hill since 2021. We have explored various alternatives and, working alongside city administration, determined that a development agreement is the best long-term solution to guarantee continued growth and development, not just for Whistle Hill, but for the city itself. In 2022, the council unanimously allocated $508,000 to a special assessment district, and that was regrettably killed at the last council meeting due to cost. City administration then recommended reallocating the appropriated $508,000 to a development agreement, which saves us and the city money in addition to expediting construction. Even after securing a reduced bid for the project, the potential investment Henry and I would be personally making to expand city infrastructure puts a huge financial burden on us. It takes vision, courage, and commitment to build a business. It also takes perseverance when challenges arise that are out of our control. Unpredictable soils and an under-engineered septic system is what we have been facing since opening, and we can't overcome it alone. We need your help. I don't need to reiterate the value we bring to the city, not just as taxpayers, but as innovative businesses. We have already made a substantial investment in new and sustainable technology, while also showcasing Alaska Railroad history. Yet we remain a small family-owned business that's mission is hospitality, a year-round farm, and a gallery that showcases local art and offers framing services. I acknowledge your responsibility to address the utility maintenance situations you now face with existing infrastructure. To my knowledge, the council wasn't aware of these issues when you committed to contribute to the sewer extension to Whistle Hill. We would be grateful, however, to see a portion of that commitment become fulfilled. The total construction estimate is around $811,000. And while the previous $508,000 allocation has since failed, I'm requesting a city contribution of roughly 50% or $405,000. The sewer line extension represents the city's commitment not only to us, but to growth as a city. It extends infrastructure, which encourages development, both residential along Turnbuckle Terrace and ultimately Mackey Lake, and commercial development along the Sterling Highway. We are willing to continue to invest in Soldotna, and we are asking you to meet us halfway. This critical sewer line extension doesn't just benefit one family. It benefits the city, the public, and our entire community. Thank you.
Any questions from the council? Seeing none, thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ms. Wackler.
Thank you. I had a question for you too, Ms. Kroll. That 811.56 is updated newest bid that you have?
Yes.
Okay. That was all I need.
Anything else? Seeing none, thank you for your comments. I see no other hands raised on Zoom. One last chance for the people here. Anybody wishing to comment on Resolution 2024-011? Seeing none, matter is back before the council. Mr. Chilson.
Yes.
Okay. Any comments from the council?
As
Mr.
anticipated.
Nelson.
And Apologies for cutting you off, Mr. Chilson. I was wondering if I could direct a question to the administration that may be germane to this conversation. I'm looking at the utility fund forecast dated yesterday that was provided to us this afternoon. And to the city manager, apologies, there's a lot of numbers and I'm having a little bit of trouble. I was wondering if we could get a brief summary of what this projection looks like and these various figures, if you wouldn't mind indulging me for a moment.
Certainly. The information, the spreadsheet that you have, first I'm going to refer to the first page and then we'll go to the second page, was provided by our finance director. In the FY 2023 column, you'll note the original appropriation of $814,200 for Whistle Hill. And that's already been appropriated and accounted for in the fund, which brings the ending fund balance to just over 2.9 million. Moving forward to 2024, you'll see the appropriation for the wastewater treatment plant outfall rehabilitation project, which was appropriated $843,724, along with a capital project appropriation, and those are referenced on the back page. It lists what those capital projects are. If you remember, in 2023, that isn't listed because some of the projects were paid for by grants and or not appropriated. Moving forward to 2025, the finance director has listed a transfer back in of $775,060, and that pertains to Whistle Hill. To date, there's been $39,140 spent city funds on the project, and that brings the ending fund balance, let me go back to 2024. The ending fund balance is just over $1.7 million. And then putting the funds back, the 775,000 back, brings the fund back to just over 2.4 million. I can go further out if you'd like, or.
And this might lead me into my next question. So as we go further out, I see the fund balance ending, so FY 28 at just a little over 1.2 million. And one of my questions for you was, do we have a kind of a minimum and maximum guideline for where we want to keep the utility fund? Do we have that established in our practice, or you see what I'm trying to say? Do we have that established?
Yes, thank you. I believe we have it by practice, but by practice, it's been this minimum of 6 months of fund balance.
Okay, thank you.
While we're on that page, I just do have a question. Going to fiscal year 26, it's showing an outlay of a upcoming capital project of 900,000, which is not an approved outlay yet. And what's that $900,000 earmarked for?
Well C treatment plant update.
Okay. Any further comments? Mr. Chilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we've had a lot of discussion on this in prior meetings, and when we had directed the city to transition to a 25% support or $100,000 or whatever is less, I shared similar concerns about that amount being inadequate for supporting this project, especially when you consider the previous support intentions that we had targeted at $508,000 amount. I do feel, however, that is not a reasonable spend that we can pursue given the constraints of the utility fund, especially these upcoming CIP projects that we're going over and the hits that fund's going to take. And especially today when we look at, unexpected expenses like the Lover's Lane pipe that we had break. We just have to basically weigh the different interests there that are on the table. And when you take all of those together and the potential rate increases that I think the city of Soldotna residents could face if we overspend that fund with all these projects that we have on there, I think we really have to plan for this accordingly when we proceed. And all considered, I think that basically splitting the two amounts that we have on the table right now, there's the $100,000 that we're looking at with this resolution, and then the $508,000 amount that was previously targeted. I think splitting that right down the middle and going for 304,437.50 would present a reasonable compromise that balances the needs of our city residents and the need to support continued small business development within the city. So to those ends, I would offer the following amendments, amending the fifth whereas clause to read, whereas in recognition of the community benefit, the city will reimburse the developers for the costs incurred directly for construction of the main extension in an amount equal to 1/4 of such costs or $304,437.50, whichever is less, and amend the sewer main extension and inspection agreement as follows. Section 9, partial cost reimbursement. A, the city will reimburse the customer's costs incurred directly for construction of the main extension in an amount equal to 1/4 of such costs or $304,437.50, whichever is less, subject to all terms and conditions of this agreement.
May I have a second?
Yes.
Mr. Carey. Discussion. Ms. Hutchins.
Yes. My issue with this is I know of 4 projects right now that are going to be going in the next 6 to 12 months. They're doing these kinds of things. They're putting in the infrastructure. Are we going to be setting a precedent so that we have to give them the same amount of money? Because then you're looking, if you have 4 of these projects, look at how much money you're looking at. It's something that I think we really need to think hard about.
Any further discussion? Anyone else? Ms. Wackler.
Coming into this, like I'm the newest one to the council. Does the city administration have historical, we've done this before. I know we talked about the Walgreens, but I'd like someone to talk to what we did with the the amount of money that was in, I believe it was SID. Sorry, I get confused with the whole development agreement versus SID. But there was talk about us funding the Walgreens or the Starbucks area. And so that setting that as a precedent. But was that what that was utilized towards? Or if this is something that's like new, something that's always been done, and I just don't know.
Go ahead.
Thank you for that question. I'm going to turn to Kyle to further explain. It is my understanding that there was a similar development agreement, 25% up to $100,000 for that project as well. And Kyle, if you will take it from there.
Yes, thank you. That's absolutely correct. The city worked with the developer of those properties and the right-of-way that they dedicated by replat. The terms of that development agreement was indeed $100,000, not to, or 25% not to exceed 100,000, specifically for improvements to 47th Street. But it covered the entire planned development to include Mullen Drive, Homestead, 47th, and the associated infrastructure.
So you're saying we asked them to basically put in that street right there and then kind of added, is that?
Through the mayor, thanks for the question. The developer approached the city and requested some participation in their plans to develop that area. Their plans were robust and fairly complex. And the end negotiation is that the city would participate in 47th Street, which was an active street at that time. Homestead didn't exist. Mullen Lane was pretty much a driveway at that point, but 47th was there and was active and being used and I believe maintained by the city. So I think that was why the terms and conditions of the agreement kind of focused on 25% not to exceed 100,000 for 47th Street.
Just a question here. I see that as a little bit different situation than this is because most of those development agreements are while we're developing a project or while somebody is developing a project. This is something that's a business that's already been in business for a number of years and has now run into a situation that they, in a sense, have no control over. And so I see it as a little bit different in the sense of a development agreement. If anybody wants to comment on that.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Mayor. I would again ask Kyle if there's been anything similar as far as this type of, a development agreement coming alongside after a business has been in business, if that's your question.
Yeah, through the mayor. Thanks. Thank you, City Manager Bauer. Nothing specific comes to mind. Certainly the city works with folks and enters into unique agreements. You'll note that I think last meeting we passed the council passed a road construction agreement. Before you today is a sewer main extension and inspection agreement. Previously on the consent agenda, council considered a water main and road construction agreement. So my point is that in the past, they are unique specialized agreements between the city and an entity setting forth unique terms and conditions based on the scenarios at hand and what's in the best interest of the city.
But there again, those were projects that had not yet been built.
The Mooring Estates that was passed the last council meeting is an unbuilt, recently platted 60-foot right-of-way. The Diane Lane is a constructed road that we do maintain, so it's kind of an existing facility. So it's kind of a bit of both, Mayor.
Anything further from the council? Mr. Nelson?
So I appreciate bringing forward the amendment. Compromise is good in public service. I wanted to voice for the record kind of my thoughts, and I have some concerns with it. When we originally did this, as an assessment district, there were very, very good reasons for doing it. Those still exist. I mean, nobody is denying that we want to have many of the things that the public commenters have brought forward, good local businesses, economic development. The city of Soldotna, I think, does a tremendous job in many, many different ways of supporting the businesses that we have and trying to do things. And Mr. Cornell's just listed a number of different things that have improved infrastructure or let us improve things in partnership, et cetera. So that being said, I have a lot of concerns with our utilities. I mean, it may be unfortunate timing, but a couple hours ago when I drove by Lover's Lane, it was pretty tore up, and there's going to be a bill associated with that. I'm sure we'll hear about that later. I'm concerned for the ratepayers as we look at this fund and what is that going to end up doing? Do we have emergencies where we start having to do some of those things? So I've wrestled with it a lot, but I'll just say I'm having a hard time being able to say yes, even though I want to in a vacuum, to being able to increase the amount by this much. I understand the implications of 100,000 may not get this business to where they need to be, but there is some piece of me that says, we should do this. There's also a piece of me that says that we are not responsible solely as a city to run a business. So I'm rambling a little bit, but just some thoughts that I have, but I don't think I can support Mr. Chilson's amendment for those reasons. And I think that long-term planning, being fiscally responsible, especially with, I'd say, a fund, maybe volatile isn't the word, but with unpredictable futures is something we have to be cautious about.
Any other comments? One last chance. Any other comments? Go ahead, Ms. Mackler. Yes.
The right place to ask this question, but I'm still unclear when we talk about what is needed, and I think we all established that it is needed for this business to continue, for this project or a project that fixes their problem of a sewage system being necessary for them to continue in business. But I haven't been clear on initial construction, soils being inappropriate for the situation that they're in, and when, at what point it was known. Like, I assume through this process of going back and forth that there's updated information on when it failed, when they knew it failed, and the did they continue to build after it failed? And I guess that's a question that I wanted some clarification on. Did it fail initially? Was it under-engineered, like, or permitted at one thing and then they built further so that it failed? Does that make sense?
Is that a question the administration can answer? Kyle's sitting over there with his pencil in his hand.
You want me to rephrase it?
Please.
What was it permitted? Like, okay, so we can look at this as like a house. Most people understand houses, and you have a septic system permitted and approved and engineered for a certain number of bathrooms, bedrooms. You build a house that's twice that size, the septic is gonna fail. Was this permitted at the accurate level that, and was the septic designed for the accurate level that it is right now? Or was it underdeveloped? Is this it just happened, or was it under engineered?
Thank you for the question to the mayor. Unfortunately, I'm probably going to give you an unsatisfactory answer because on-site septic is under the purview of the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation. So while we do permit building and construction in the city, due diligence and design and adequate soil absorption systems is permitted through the state and not the city. So we did not participate in that. So probably wouldn't be good for me to speculate on that.
Would it be safe to say at the time the facility was built, it had passed the DEC and EPA requirements for that type of facility?
Thank you, Mayor. I would presume so. That all permits were obtained prior to operation. It's a good assumption.
So what developed was sometime after everything was built.
Yeah, I can't answer that question. Don't know. Thank you.
Anything else from the council? Mr. Carey.
To the administration. In the last 5 years, have we provided more than 25% of the cost of any project of this nature?
We have not, and I'm going to turn to the director, but to my knowledge, if we haven't done more than 25% up to, we've been consistent with the 25% up to 100,000 through development agreements.
Yeah, thank you, City Manager Bauer. That's consistent with my understanding. We haven't done an exhaustive search, but again, these agreements are typically unique to the particulars of a project and its benefit to the city. So, to my knowledge, no.
A follow-up to that, though. My memory might be failing me, but and I don't remember the name of the road that's behind 4D Interior. That was a SAD, if I remember right. And didn't we fund that at 50% or 75%?
Thank you, Mayor. John might recall better than I, but yes, it was initiated as a special assessment district, and then I believe it failed and was just a city project. Yeah, so it was considered under the special assessment district process, but then it failed and was taken up as a priority project for the city.
So the city paid 100% of it then.
I believe that's correct.
All right. Anything else from the council on the amendment? Seeing none, I'm going to pass the gavel here. And I just have a couple of quick comments.
Mayor Whitney.
Back when we originally discussed this and the resolution, I believe it was a resolution passed at the 62.5%. Personally, I thought that was a little high at that time, but I believe this council or a council made a commitment and for a certain amount of money and a certain amount of funding. I think that has changed over the last year or two. Though the 500,000 that was committed then may not be the right amount right now, I believe the amendment that Mr. Chilson has brought forth is a fair compromise. It doesn't get the Crolls and the business fully funded, but at least it does better than what the original $100,000 was. What I would hate to see, and I think everyone in this council would hate to see, is because of a lack of funding for this project, that we not only lose the project, but we end up possibly losing a business. And that business is going to affect not just the business owners, but the families and the people who work for them. It'll also affect, could have an effect on city income through sales tax and other items. Just because it's not going to be there, people aren't going to go there. I think this is a reasonable compromise. It may not be what the Crolls like, and it may not be what the city likes, but it's a compromise, and it's something that I think we need to look at the future on. As I said, I would hate to see us save a dime here and lose a quarter over here. So that's my comments. So no oops, did I see Mr. Carey pushing the button? Oh, okay. No further comments. We'll call for the vote on the amendment, amending it to amount of $304,437.50.
Chilson,
Yes.
Nelson,
No.
Wackler,
No.
Hutchings,
No.
Carrie,
Yes.
Parker,
No.
Cassidy.
Yes.
You have 2 yes votes, 4 no votes. Motion fails.
So I counted 3 and 3.
No.
Does anybody disagree with the way I read the vote?
Oh, I thought Wackler said yes. Okay. Alrighty. That motion fails on a 2-4 vote. So we're back to the original resolution in front of you is 2024-011. Any further discussion on the main motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote.
Wackler,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Hutchings,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Chilson,
Yes.
Cassidy.
Yes.
You have 6 yes votes.
Resolution 2024-011 passes on a 6-0 vote. Moving on to the next item on the agenda will be mayor and council reports. My report. Okay. Glad to see the street sweepers out. I think they're doing a great job. I'd almost, even though I love the sunshine and the nice weather, I'd almost like to see a little bit of rain to kind of hold things down and maybe wash some of that away. The other thing, another thing on the agenda, or another thing I have, the King of the River food collection project is going to be held again this year. It'll be in July. I don't have the exact dates, but it'll be sometime in the middle of the July instead of the 4th of July, because the baseball fields, they're not going to have a game on the 4th of July. So it'll be somewhere right around the middle of July. And there'll be further information coming out on that. The Mayor's Coalition on Energy has met a couple of times over the last few weeks, months. That's in discussion on the gas supply from Cook Inlet. There will be a letter that's being proposed by the mayors in support of House Bills 394 and 388. And that draft letter has not been received yet. I expect to see it here in the next day or so, if not already in the emails. Progress Days planning is coming up next week. we'll move forward on that. If got some comments from the council, would they kind of like to do the barbecue again, or do you have some thoughts on something else? If you have thoughts on something else, let me know. Mr. Chilson.
I'm always a fan of the barbecue and getting you grilling for the city. So I'm a huge fan of the barbecue. Let's do that again. Get you behind the grill.
Well, anyone else, just shoot me an email if you got any thoughts and suggestions. And I was just gonna commend Whistle Hill. They just received about a $500,000 grant for their solar power up there. And that's a good project that they worked on. So that's all I have for now. Moving on to the next one. Council reports on boards and commission. April 15th, 2024 Library Advisory Board meeting. Mr. Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As always, it's a good thing to go to the Library Advisory Board. It's a good group, and I appreciate representing the council on it. Their meeting was as normal. They handled a number of things. There were just a few changes that they approved. And again, they're very orderly. One of the things was events, people using their facilities basically have been able to do so without cost. They put in place a policy now that if indeed someone is going to charge for coming to an event at the library, then, and if it's during library hours, the library is going to charge $30 fee. If they're putting on an event after hours that they are charging, it's going to be a $60 fee. And so they're putting in place a new policy to have that effect. They also they did put into the formal policy statement that the group leader is responsible for, quote, ensuring attendees follow the 01.02 Public Code of Conduct policy, and just making sure that everyone understands that there are very clear policies that are to be followed by all participants, and it is the responsibility of the person putting on, or the individual or group putting on the event, that policies are followed. They also want to be very clear that on all advertising, that it very clearly states who is putting on an event, so that an event at the library wouldn't appear publicly and through media to appear as if it's the library putting on something. So they wanted to clarify so that all promotional materials, including print, digital, and recorded advertisement, must be worded so that it is clear to the general public the event is held at, but not sponsored by, the library, if that is indeed the case. They also, just in terms of operating and going through the different things, and again, it was a very good meeting. I felt really bad about this, but again, I'm old. As they look at ordering things in the future, they mentioned the magazine contract was up for renewal, and they don't get many people that come in to look at magazines anymore. They look at them online, all other ways, and so they're reducing their magazines that they're going to order that you can again hold and go through and look through. But again, it's just part of being old. And they basically they talked about the difference in terms of the amount of magazines. In its digital magazines are used 24 times more than print magazines, and so it's those nasty facts again that people are using to make decisions. And so again, I have to hold on to it. I can't, what can I say? They have really nice graphs of usage, participants, attendees at different things. The library, again, as a board, is always a good meeting held here. They did for the first time, and I've been part of it since I was president of Friends of the Library a long time ago. They had two people from the community that came to attend their meeting to voice displeasure. And they were also very politely directed to follow a procedure. They particularly want to get on the agenda. And again, that's going to be an interesting thing. Again, it's not a public meeting as such. It's a library advisory board meeting. But they were, again, concerned about what we all know about. But it was a very good meeting, and I was very pleased to go to it. And I appreciate serving on behalf of the council.
Any questions for Mr. Carey? Just a quick comment. one of the magazine subscriptions I had, they switched to digital.
Uh-huh.
I haven't read the magazine since.
Oh, hush.
I would,
Hush.
I would rather have the magazine in front of me because it was a magazine that I would pass along to other people. Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to address the water main break that happened this afternoon. Actually, it was earlier in the day. And Director Allen's been texting me, yes, during the meeting with updates. And I am going to actually turn it over to Kyle for the technical part of what happened and where we are after that. I'll address some of the code requirements regarding emergency procurement.
Thank you, City Manager Bauer. We weren't sure what to expect other than a large amount and volume of water was pushing to the surface through the cracks in the asphalt and along the curb line. So certainly a significant break. What we discovered was an old abandoned service line that went to a structure that's been demolished since before they rebuilt the new structure on that parcel. So somehow it had failed and was leaking significantly. That repair has been made as of 6:20 p.m. So all the customers have water again. They're probably currently still backfilling the hole and compacting and gonna end up, we'll patch. I don't think we can get asphalt, quite yet this calendar year, but we'll put some wrap down and make a patch later this summer. So the hard work's behind us and it was a successful repair.
So this wasn't a main, it was just a.
That's correct, Mayor. It was a large service, an 1.5-inch service. So a high volume of water through our pressurized distribution system. So it was not the main, but we did make the repair at the main. There's a corp stop valve that was left open. So when they demolished the building, they left that line charged and we have since removed that line, made a repair on the main line and are backfilling.
Which was less expensive than replacing the main.
Yes, we were not sure what to expect or what to find. We were prepared. We had a piece of mainline pipe that we have in our boneyard on hand. We thought we might be cutting and putting a piece in, but wasn't the case.
Good job. Anything else? Go.
Yes, so following then the procurement for emergency procurements, I wrote a memo as required by the code to the finance director. And it allows me to waive the procurement procedures and award a contract, in which I did to South Central Construction. They are our outfall contractor, and they were able to pivot. They were in a good spot to be able to put a pause on that project, come over and work on this, thankfully for just the day, and they'll go back to that project, to the outfall project. And then part of the code requirements is that I shall provide a written report about any emergency procurement contracts to the council no later than the next regular meeting following contract award. So at the next regular meeting, I'll provide you further information. I'm uncertain if we'll have all of the financial information at that time. We may, so I will follow up with you. And I do want to thank all of the departments. Everyone came together as a team to get this accomplished, and to thank the businesses for their patience. We really appreciate it, and very thankful it wasn't a major water main break, a connection at the main, but not a major water main break. So moving on to other items, included in the packet, I referenced the ABC Board's approval of the additional 20 additional restaurant or eating place licenses within the city. The clerk and I were speaking this morning before the water line break regarding putting information out to the public and to the chamber, and we will follow up on that. We've been kind of holding back to see how ABC wants to receive applications and or whatever their process is going to be for businesses, so to direct them to the correct person to obtain additional license and the correct process. This weekend, on Saturday, Senator Bjorkman hosted, hosted a town hall for DOT and the projects that are in the area. It was a good meeting. DOT provided information about all of the projects in the area, and then actually spoke of their STIP process, that they are still receiving approval from the feds on their STIP, and their rolling STIP process was very interesting to learn about that process. And they too are going to have some compliance process waivers that they'll need to work through with regarding the Build America, Buy America program. They continued on to the brine discussion, which I had to be someplace else at that time, but that continued. Senator Bjorkman has included in the capital budget our conference room expansion project that we have as far as our legislative priorities for $690,000 for the phase one for the design for the conference room expansion. I did testify at the House Finance Committee last week and spoke to it. Also been notified that Representative Ruffridge has included the street maintenance winter sand cover structure in the capital budget as well. We've been playing phone tag, so I'm going to assume the whole 300,000 is in there, but I will confirm that with him. The director of the chamber spoke about their website. Our website is nearing completion. As you know, the council authorized a contract for a new website. We're nearing completion and should be going live on May 1st. It may be May 5th, but May 1st is our date to go live. And so we'll keep you posted. We do know that, you know, as with all things, there may be some continued upgrades, but we're going to roll things out, and it's a great website. And I believe that's all I have, unless you have some questions for me.
Any questions for the city manager? Yep. So we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is public comments. Members of the public will have 3 minutes to comment. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment? For those participating through Zoom, please raise your hand if you would like to comment. App users by pressing the raise your hand button, and phone participants by dialing *9 on your telephone. Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on any item? Seeing none, we'll go to Zoom, and there are no hands raised in Zoom. Next item on the agenda is council comments, and we'll start with Ms. Wackler tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to start out with thanking everybody who participated in a lot of our local schools to promote the idea of funding our schools properly through having a walk-in. So I'd just like to thank everybody who participated at our local schools to show their support for school funding. And I definitely want to give a huge shout out to our city employees and everybody for jumping on this problem. I mean, it seems crazy that first time I heard about it was at like 3-4 o'clock this afternoon, and it is done. We're good. That's exceptional work. So thank you, everybody.
Mr. Chilson.
I'd also like to thank everyone that came out today for the walk-ins and support of education in our community. I got the pleasure of attending that with my son at Soldotna High School this morning. It was a fun experience, and just seeing all the energy out there. And I'm hoping that we'll see the legislature come together to actually make some forward progress in that regard. And other than that, again, thank you to our incredible team at the city, their work on the pipe there on Lover's Lane, and then also just getting all the streets in good shape for the spring season. They're phenomenal out there, and biking's great. So fantastic work, everyone.
Mr. Cassidy.
I have a few things I wanted to speak on. One thing was the walkout and Soldotna High School. I'm not sure if it was done at other schools, but there was a walk-in this morning, and then last week there was a walkout. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to participate in the walk-in this morning, but I was able to take part in the walkout because it occurred when I did not have classes. And I just heard about it from some friends that morning, and I think that the idea that they were advocating for is a just one. It's a good one. We have had kids from our student council go to the legislative meetings down in Juneau, and unfortunately, there is less support for this cause than they would have liked. And it was really unfortunate to find that out. But thankfully, gears are turning and this issue is being resolved. I want my siblings to be able to go through school without worrying about, consistent teachers. And I know a lot of the teachers at these schools, and many of them are good people. Some of them don't even own homes. They're just renting. And many of those that fall under that demographic will not be getting any closer if this issue is not resolved. And so I'm really glad that the pieces of this issue are moving along. Next thing is just some formalities. This weekend, our drama program is putting on a Clue play. So if any of you have seen the movie of Clue, obviously oriented around the board game, each movie, depending on where you saw it, had a different ending. And this play will be the same thing. It will be taking place on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's right. And each ending will be a different one. And so they've been working really hard on it. They're really excited about it. Next thing, track had a meet last weekend. We, boys and girls, both won. So that was fun. Let's see, softball was going to go to Kodiak. Unfortunately, that weekend, they were having 100-mile-an-hour winds plus 100% chance of rain. And so that weather was not going to be favorable. So fortunately, they decided to stay. And then our soccer teams have had mixed results over their past few games. But I know they're excited to keep playing, and I look forward to hearing more about their results. The next thing is our student council elections are coming up. I think it's next week. And that will determine who is taking my place next year. So I look forward to finding out who gets the privilege of sitting here next year. The last thing I wanted to mention, or I just wanted to put my 2 cents in, was I'm really grateful for the people who came in to talk about the recent findings with the books in the library. Personally, I'm the oldest of 7 kids. My younger siblings, they don't deserve to be able to walk into their library and pull that stuff off the shelf. The wickedness that is seeping into our society, really our world, is a sickness that will continue to progress unless something is done. And so I'm really grateful for the people who came in and talked about that, because things need to be done about this. I don't want to take my siblings to the library and have them pull something, that trash, off of a shelf and then start reading that. Everyone has their agency. And I think it's our duty to do our part and use ours to prevent that from happening. Fortunately, I think we all know what the right course of action is here. And if not, we all have access to scriptures that do. Thank you.
Ms. Hutchings.
Well, I'm going to have no comments because I know we still have executive session.
Mr. Carey.
I was pleased to be part of the walk-in advocate for education of all students in our state, primary responsibility of government. It was a tough decision, though, to decide which school, and as a graduate of Soldotna Elementary, I went there.
Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor Whitney. Had the opportunity over the last couple of weeks to take in a couple of transportation meetings. One was looking at transportation options. We have a lot of people who don't have access to cars have difficulty getting around. As you saw from the memo that accompanied the ordinance I introduced, there's been almost 1 million people that have used carts since it started, and still looking at options, alternatives, ways to pull that together. And that was one meeting. And then as the city manager mentioned, the meeting with Senator Bjorkman and the DOT personnel, it was shocking to learn that the Juno Creek bypass will not be completed until 2032, which I wouldn't be surprised to see that date move again, since it's only since they've started, it continues to move. And it wasn't exactly clear when they're going to start working on improvements to the Sterling Highway from Sterling into Kenai. But they do have a contractor. WAP is going to be doing that project. And they said after the beginning of the next fiscal year, we might know more. Regarding the the decision with Whistle Hill, as Councilmember Hutchings mentioned, and Mr. Baxter pointed out, there are a number of projects around town. This gentleman from Diane Lane that would like to see more money on their projects and for us to fund them. And for everybody who comes to the city and asks for money and asks for help, I would love to be able to help them 100%. But we also have to look at, do we have the money? Can we afford to do this? And we have, particularly on our utilities, aging infrastructure with our water and sewer that we need to be able to respond to. So I like that we stuck with the precedent that we've done in the past with the development agreement. We have in the code a process for special assessment districts, and to the extent that the city can participate in that. So supportive of what we did there tonight. And I will not be at the May 8th council meeting, but I will be here for the May 22nd.
And I think that Juno project is now at about $1 billion, which is a substantial jump from the original. And Mr. Nelson, I did not forget you.
Just again, I'll echo what others have said. Thanks for the folks that responded today and took care of the issue on Lover's Lane. And as every spring, I like to say, thank you very much for the roads crew. I think every time I come home from work, I see another path of swept road going down the street. So that's a really nice thing to see things getting cleaned up and looking a little nicer. So thank you to everybody.
Next item on the agenda is number 13, lucky 13, executive session. We will have an executive session, the city manager and city clerk annual evaluations under AS 44.62.310C2. If discussed in public, may prejudice the reputation and character of any person. In accordance with Alaska Statute 44.62.310C2, the city council may convene into an executive session to discuss subjects which may prejudice the reputation and character of any person. May I have a motion to enter into executive session? Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor Whitney. I move to enter into an executive session to discuss the city manager's annual evaluation and the city clerk's annual evaluation. Ms. Bauer and Ms. Blankenship have elected to have the discussions take place in executive session. The executive session will include Mayor Whitney and the city council members. The city manager and the city clerk will be included when the council requests their presence. That is the motion.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Chilson. Are there any objections to convening into executive session? Seeing none, we will move into executive session. Are we going to stay up here or go down to the other room? I'm sorry?
Go downstairs.
Okay, I think that's where we did it last time, didn't we? Okay, and we'll take a short break before this starts. Oh. Feeling like a nut. I did, did you make it? Oh, please don't. What? No, I can't. No. I know.
His was back, yeah, and they might have actually, they might have been listening to it as well. So like there could be this like repeat thing happening. Are they just gonna? Hey, yeah, Chera, are you taking your phone? You taking your phone? You can just, like, one of you can text. If you're, like when you want us to. Yeah, that way nobody has to come upstairs. We'll just be right here. Wait, no, so when we're done, we're coming back here. Yeah. Unless, but we don't want us down there. Okay. How about all? All people can,